Welcome, traveler. Your quest awaits. You find yourself in a small town, the kind of town every hero starts from. The cobblestones are warm from the morning sun, and shopkeepers are just beginning to open their stalls. This is where all great adventures begin. And beyond the gates lies a vast world waiting for you to explore. And your main quest is clear. You'll need to venture out of your small town, face the challenges waiting out there, and reach that final end boss. Right now, you're at the start of your journey. And you have choices here. Do you wander the markets and trade stories with the locals? Do you stock up on potions or go straight to the guild hall to see what's posted on the notice board? And there's no wrong answer, because every choice builds your story. And the truth is, you don't walk into the world and immediately fight the end boss. In every great quest, there are the main missions, but there are also the side quests, the ones that don't look as shiny, but build the skills you'll need to survive the challenges ahead. The side quests are where you learn to negotiate with villagers, discover hidden allies, and grow strong enough to lead a party through the toughest battles. And while this may sound like the start of a role-playing game, it's also the story of our work in tech. Because just like those side quests, there's work we do every day that doesn't make the roadmap, but makes everything else possible. Side quests are where you build the skills the main quest never teaches you. And that's what I'll be talking about today. Now, when I first started out in tech, I thought I should focus on the main quest. Learn new technologies, complete my projects, work at interesting companies. But then I moved to London and I got involved in community events. On conferences, meetups, hackathons, first as an attendee, then as a volunteer, and then as one of the main organizers. And I continued with those side quests internally at the companies I've worked at as well. I've organized internal hackathons and on conferences, led on learning initiatives, encouraged more blogging and speaking within teams. And those side quests, they changed everything for me. They shaped how I worked, how I led, and how I saw myself in the industry, far more than any main quest project ever did. All of those things taught me skills that I never learned from my normal work. And it showed me how much these side quests in tech contribute and help us evolve as individuals, but also as teams and as a community. So, hi everyone, a little bit about me. My name is Melinda Seckington, and I've been an engineer and a senior engineering manager at companies like FutureLearn and Wikimedia Foundation. So I know what it feels like to work on that main quest, shipping features and keeping teams moving. Nowadays, I run my own company, Learn, Build, Share, where I work with engineering teams and leaders on the things that often sit between the technical work and the people side. So things like communication, collaboration, and building better cultures. I'm also a regular conference speaker, blogger, and event organizer, including my own meetup group called Tech Ladies Dinner Roundtable. So I've been both the player working at that main quest and the person designing the side quests that help others level up. And one question that I've always been interested in is, what makes people actually grow? Is it just that main quest? Or is it all those moments where we step sideways, take a chance, and go off script? So side quest work is where we build the skills that we need to survive the challenges ahead. They're multipliers. Side quests aren't distractions from the main quest. They're how you grow stronger, how you become more resilient, and how you build up your career. So we're going to take a closer look at these side quests themselves. So, my lovely audience, we're going to go on a journey. So you are the heroes today, about to go on your quest. And every quest starts with a map. And to begin, we need to explore ours. So how do we define these side quests? Now, to me, the side quest work, it's what we often refer to as glue work, the work that holds teams together. And today I'm going to talk about two types of glue work. Team glue work, how originally the phrase was used, what you find internally with inside your teams, and community glue work, which is something you might not have heard of before, because I think I've coined it myself. But it's the glue work externally within our tech community. So first, we're going to look at team glue work. Now, the phrase glue work was coined in 2019 by Tanya Riley in her talk, Being Glue. And she describes it as the less glamorous and often less promotable work that needs to happen to make a team successful. And a lot of things fall under glue work. It's mentoring a junior engineer so they onboard faster and feel supported. It's facilitating that meeting that unblocks an entire team. It's coaching, documenting, organizing, reviewing. So let me ask you something. When you think about glue work in your team, who does this work currently? What are the things that you do? And how do these things get recognized? And you might already recognize yourself somewhere in this. A lot of engineers are already doing glue work. They just don't have a name for it yet. And once you start noticing it, you start seeing it everywhere. And these aren't just nice to have extras. It's the skills that keep teams running smoothly. And the impact is huge. Faster onboarding shortens ramp-up time and boosts retention. Good documentation saves hours of duplicated effort and makes scaling possible. Effective facilitation clears blockers faster, which means higher velocity and less wasted time. It's the kind of work that acts like glue. All the work that holds a team together. And sometimes these things are embedded in certain roles. Managers might facilitate meetings, tech leads might mentor others. But in reality, a lot of this work happens informally across a team. Glue work is essential, but often undervalued. And it often falls disproportionately on women or people who naturally step up to support others. Now, Tanya Riley's framing focused on the individual. If you're doing glue work, realize that you're doing it and advocate for yourself. Or step back if it's holding you back from your career. And that framing helped a lot of people. But here's where I want to take the idea a bit further. Glue work can't be left to the natural helpers. When it's left to chance, it always falls on the same people. Usually the people who have been socialized to pick it up, or who have been volunteered into doing it. Or the ones who care so deeply that they can't bear to see it not done. Now that's not sustainable, and it's not fair. The problem isn't glue work. The problem is teams that fail to recognize, distribute, and reward it. But teams can change. And importantly, teams don't change only through top-down decisions. They change through the behaviors people practice every day. So enabling teamwork is enabling glue work is a team responsibility. The strongest engineering teams don't treat glue work as accidental. They make it part of how the team operates. And the culture of a team grows from what the people inside the team choose to value and practice. So here's the definition that I use. Glue work is the work that keeps a team healthy and makes technical work land, scale, and last. It's a practice of strengthening the team's communication, collaboration, coaching, and culture building skills. And in great teams, everyone contributes to glue work in some way. So glue work is what turns a collection of individuals into a team. It's the stuff that gets seen as side quests, but it's what makes the main quest possible. Glue work is also one of the best ways for engineers to develop leadership skills. So facilitating teaches people to guide a group. Mentoring teaches people to coach and listen. Organizing teaches people to problem solve and think quickly on their feet. Writing documentation sharpens their ability to communicate clearly. So these are the very skills that the next generation of leaders need. And glue work is the training ground. And especially with AI changing how our teams work, it's the human skills that will matter the most. And the benefits don't stop with individuals. At the individual level, though, people are more proactive, they gain confidence, visibility, and new opportunities. At the team level, ownership is shared, skills are spread, and there's more collaboration and resilience. And at the company level, you get improved retention, a leadership pipeline, and a reputation as a place where people grow. So glue work isn't just helpful. It multiplies value at every level of the system. Now, one thing that's important to remember here is that glue work isn't just something people naturally have. It's a skill. Just like languages or system design, and like any skill, it can be developed. And the more people who practice them, the stronger the team becomes. And this is where you come in, the quest that I'm setting for all of you today. How do we embed glue work into the system? How do we help people learn these skills? How do we design for glue work? Because we have the responsibility to design for it, to make it visible, to spread it across the team, and to create opportunities for people to practice it. Because if we don't design for it, it doesn't happen by default. And when I look at the teams that I've worked in and my own experience, I realize we don't need to start from scratch. Team glue work is only half of the map. So to unlock the full picture, we need to connect it with community glue work. So glue work isn't just inside our teams, within our companies. Glue work is also within our tech community. So think about meetups, hackathons, open source projects, blog posts, conferences. These are the spaces where knowledge is shared and leadership is grown. So, just like with team glue work, here's my definition for community glue work. Community glue work is the work that keeps the tech community healthy and alive and makes our tech community grow, scale, and last. It's a practice of strengthening the community's communication, collaboration, mentorship, and culture. So this happens across the whole industry. So again, it's mentoring, speaking, blogging, organizing, connecting people. It's all glue work too. And yet, just like inside our companies, it's often unrecognized and undervalued. Community glue work is how our community evolves. It's how the next generation finds their way in. It's where leadership skills are shared, networks form, and new opportunities begin. But it's also bigger than that. Without community glue work, our technical industry stalls. Meetups and conferences spread new ideas before they're written into books or courses. Open source projects form the backbone of the tools and frameworks we all depend on. And when these efforts falter, we all feel the impact. There's slower knowledge transfer, there's higher barriers to entry, fewer pathways for new people to join. So if glue work keeps a team functioning, community glue work is what keeps the entire industry alive. And companies also benefit. Organizations that support community initiatives build reputation, attract and retain talent. They have stronger engineering cultures, and they show that they're serious about the future of tech. And just like with team glue work, community glue work builds leaders. So I got my first management role because I had experience coordinating volunteers and staff at a huge 500-person hackathon. It really taught me crisis management and logistics under pressure. And it's something that I learned that I wouldn't have learned internally in my team. So these are leadership accelerators. You learn faster and sometimes more intensely in community spaces than inside your companies. And here's the missed opportunity. When organizations don't support their people in contributing externally, they're cutting off a major way to grow these skills. And this is where the internal and external worlds connect. The skills we build inside teams can contribute to the community, and what we do externally strengthens our teams. So these two forms of glue work contribute to each other. When you give someone space to practice glue work inside the team, they build confidence and skills that they can carry outward. And when they contribute to the community, you share knowledge, mentor, or organize, you bring back new skills and fresh ideas that make the whole team stronger. So here's an example. Someone who contributes documentation to open source builds the skills needed to improve onboarding docs inside a company. So it's a flywheel. Each side fuels the other. When people practice glue work inside teams, they build the skills like communication, facilitation, and mentoring. And when they contribute to the wider community, they gain new perspectives, new ideas, and new connections that they bring back into their teams. And over time, that creates momentum. Now, my own experience reflects this loop. So I mentioned before, when I first moved to London, I got involved in running tech community events. And I learned so much from these: how to pitch, how to wrangle volunteers, how to project manage and persuade. I then did my own startup where I got to put these skills into practice. And I brought those skills from the startup back into my event organizing. And this has never stopped. I feel like I'm constantly learning things from my community work, like event organizing and speaking, that I apply to the teams that I've worked in, and vice versa. I nowadays approach designing my events as experience design, applying what I learned in management to encourage and facilitate conversations during the dinners that I've run. So it's always been this active loop, with one feeding the other and the skills compounding and getting stronger over time. And the more we recognize, support, and encourage both team glue work and community glue work, the faster that flywheel spins within teams and within our communities. So think of it like an XP multiplier. The more side quests people take on, the faster they level up, and the stronger the whole team becomes. So glue work isn't optional. It's essential. Every high-performing team finds a way to build these skills. Now, some do it inside the company through the team glue work, and others grow it outside through the community glue work. But the key thing is this: teams that grow don't leave it to chance. They make space for these activities. They encourage them. They treat them as part of how people develop. So how do we make it visible, shared, and something that people can grow into? So next, we're going to look at some practical ways that teams can do that. So we've explored the map, and the next step for you, my heroes, is to take some quests. So if we want glue work to become part of how our teams operate, we need to shape the environment around it. So what signals that this work matters? What helps people learn how to do it? What opportunities exist to practice it? Now, some of these things might be decisions made by managers in your team, but many of them are also things that teams can shape together, or things that you can advocate for. Sometimes it just needs a single person to start a new practice. So I'm going to walk through several ways that teams and organizations can make glue work easier to learn and practice. So I'm going to walk you through 6 levels, each one with practical examples of things that you can do inside your teams and within the wider community. Now, think of this like a progression system for skills. Because glue work is something that you level up in, and each level builds on the last. So apply these 6 levels to each glue work skill that you want to learn. So you don't have to do everything. This is a choose your own adventure. Pick a skill that you care about. Maybe it's mentoring. Maybe it's documentation. Maybe it's contributing to open source. Maybe it's event organizing. And then apply these levels to that one skill first. So just like in a role-playing game, you're choosing where to invest your skill points, where to focus on first. So as we go through these levels, I want you to think about these questions. So first, which of these already happens in your team? Which of these could exist if someone started the conversation? And which of these could you try with your team next week? And how do you go through these stages yourself? Now, one thing that I want to highlight before we dive into these 6 levels is that people get good at something through 2 ways. First, by being exposed regularly to what good looks like, what we call perpetual exposure. So the first 3 themes are all about that. Because when people see something often enough, it stops feeling mysterious and starts feeling achievable. Now, the second way that people learn is through deliberate practice. And this is when you actually get to try the thing yourself. Now, I first heard about this framing from Kathy Sierra's book, Badass, Making Users Awesome. But it applies to so many situations where people will need to learn something new. So we're going to dive into that first level. So the first level is recognize and celebrate. People need to see that glue work isn't invisible but valued. So this sets the tone for everyone that glue work matters as much as shipping code. Every time we highlight glue work, we're showing others what good looks like. And that does 2 things. First, it validates the people already doing this work. And second, it signals to everyone else that this is something worth paying attention to. So this first level is really about making the invisible visible. So remember those lists of glue work activities we saw earlier? Where do you see these things happening in your team, within your community? So think about last week. And be specific. Who helped unblock someone? Who supported someone else? And then ask yourself, what's one small thing you could do to recognize that? Awareness is the first step, but recognition is what starts to shift culture. Now, inside teams, this can start with small things. Share what someone has done in a company all hands. Call out great mentoring in a team retro, or highlight someone's documentation in a team update. If you're a manager, this is also where performance conversations matter. Glue work needs to count. But you don't need to be a manager to influence this. You can also start recognizing these things yourself. When managers ask you for feedback about other people, highlight this, that this is something that you care about, that this other person has done. So call it out in Slack. Thank someone publicly. The more visible it becomes, the more normal it becomes. Now, externally, recognition helps people see that sharing knowledge and contributing to the wider community matters too. So if someone writes a blog post, share it, like it, repost it. If someone gives a talk, celebrate it. If someone contributes to open source, highlight it. Sometimes companies amplify this formally, but sometimes it starts with colleagues just sharing each other's work. And when engineers see their peers recognized for sharing knowledge, it changes how people think about these activities. The second theme is building shared knowledge. Once people see that glue work matters, the next step is being exposed to how it works. So this is going one level further. We're not just looking at the end result of what good looks like, but also the steps and processes to get there. So how do you run a good retrospective? How do you mentor someone well? How do you give feedback? And shared knowledge helps here. It turns invisible skills into things that people can actually learn. So the second level is about making that knowledge visible and repeatable. So what do you know that others might not? Where do people repeatedly get stuck? What questions come up again and again? What's one thing that you could document or explain? What existing resources can you use or refer to? Maybe you don't know how to do this yet, but document your process in figuring it out and finding out. Because every time you do this, you reduce friction for everyone else that comes after you. Now, internally, this might look like playbooks for mentoring or onboarding, guides for running meetings or facilitating discussions, templates for making decisions or sharing project updates. So these types of artifacts make glue work easier for others to pick up. The more that we can codify glue work, the easier it is for others to understand and adopt. And if your organization has things like career frameworks, this is also where glue work should appear. Because if something matters for the team, it should also matter for career growth. Now, outside the company, shared knowledge often comes from the wider tech community. Great conference talks, detailed technical blog posts, workshops or training. And these are powerful because they show examples from beyond your own organization. Sometimes sharing these resources is as simple as posting something in a team channel and saying, this is a really good example of facilitation, or this talk explains mentoring really well. Again, exposure builds understanding. Now, the third step is connecting people. Exposure here is about the who to turn to, who to learn from. Because glue work spreads through networks. People learn these skills from peers, mentors, collaborators. And often the biggest barrier is simply not knowing who to talk to. And when teams create more connections, glue work multiplies. So think about who you know, either within your team or outside it. Who could benefit from talking to each other but currently aren't? Where are conversations not happening that should be? What's one introduction that you can make? Because sometimes the most valuable thing that you can do is help the right people find each other. So inside organizations, this might mean creating more chances for people to interact, pairing across teams, inviting engineers to observe stakeholder discussions, creating cross-team working groups. These connections give people visibility into how collaboration actually happens. And often that's where the learning begins. Every new relationship builds perspective and unblocks silos. Externally, those networks can grow even wider. Meetups, conferences, community groups, these spaces expose engineers to different ways of thinking and working. And sometimes companies sponsor this, sometimes engineers choose to explore it themselves. But every connection expands perspective. And that perspective often comes back to strengthen the team. So you're all at a conference right now. Who have you met so far who you didn't know previously? If you've only been talking to people you know, you remain in your own bubble. So use this as an opportunity to start a conversation with someone new. As you walk out of the room later, I encourage you to turn to the person next to you and introduce yourself. And if you want a conversation starter, just ask, what did you think about this talk? Even if you didn't like it, that's a good place to start. Now, once people have exposure and connections, the next step is practice. And the best way to learn glue work is to actually do it. So, things like facilitating discussions, coordinating people, helping people solve problems together. These are the moments where glue work skills really develop. Because as much as you might see something, it's only once you actually are doing it that things become tangible. So, what's one Gluework skill you want to practice? Where could you try it in a low-risk way? Maybe it's facilitating a small meeting. Maybe it's mentoring someone informally, trying something new, asking a question at a conference talk. What's stopping you? Because this is where growth actually happens. Now, this is where doubt sometimes shows up. I don't know how. Someone else is better at this. It's not my role. I might get it wrong. Now, that's normal. Because learning by doing means that you're still learning. You don't have to have it figured out yet. You might be doing something that's not quite in your comfort zone yet, that stretches you. And that's the point. If you never try, if you never take that first step, you never improve. Now, inside teams, practice often looks like small leadership moments. Leading a technical guild, improving onboarding documentation, facilitating retrospectives. These might seem like small responsibilities, but they help develop skills that are central to Gluework. And the more opportunities you have to practice, the more confident you become. Now, outside the company, practice can look like sharing knowledge with the community, writing blog posts, submitting conference talks, contributing to open source, running community discussions. These experiences sharpen communication and leadership skills in ways that are hard to replicate internally. And those skills come back with you to your team. So again, if you want to get involved in these different things, today is a great opportunity to start conversations with people. Downstairs, there are booths of various community groups. There's tons of people here who are organizing their own events. Think about what talk you might submit to a conference in the next few months. Write a blog post based on what you've seen today. Start somewhere small. Next level is learning by teaching. Because when you teach something, you have to organize your thinking. You explain your decisions, you reflect on your experiences. And in doing that, you deepen your own understanding. And this is where Gluework starts multiplying across teams. So what could you teach? It doesn't have to be formal. It could be showing someone how you approach a certain bug or a certain problem, walking them through your thinking. Who could benefit from learning some of the things that you know? And then how can you support them without telling them everything, without taking over? Now, inside teams, teaching might look like mentoring someone, running a lunch and learn, giving a short internal talk about something that you've learned. These don't have to be formal. They just create moments where knowledge moves between people. Every time you teach something, the whole team becomes stronger. Now, outside the company, teaching might mean mentoring in community programs, running workshops, moderating discussions. These activities build confidence and skills while also supporting the next generation of people that are coming after you. And again, these skills also you can bring back to the team. Now, the final level is learning by leading. This is where you move beyond participating in Gluework and start creating environments where others can collaborate and learn. So this is about running communities, organizing events, and leading initiatives that bring people together. And when that happens, Gluework stops being something that you as an individual does. It becomes part of how the whole system works. So where could this become part of your team's way of working? What would make it the default and not the exception? And what here is maybe beyond your control? What might need support from your manager or your CTO or your exec team? Because this is where you move from individual action to system change. So inside companies, this might look like organizing internal conferences, running communities of practice, starting mentoring programs. So these build glue skills because you need to coordinate groups, facilitate discussions, pitch ideas. When you take ownership of these initiatives, it's not about just sharing knowledge. You're designing an environment where learning happens. So the first time I had to pitch to our CEO that I wanted to do a hackathon was super terrifying. But I knew that this would be something that was valuable for the entire company. And with the help of my manager, the CTO at the time, I came up with a pitch that actually got accepted. And that led to me organizing hackathons every half a year within that team for a couple of years. Now, externally, learning by leading often means stepping into roles that shape the community itself. Now, that might be organizing meetups, helping run a conference program committee, or leading initiatives within a professional community. These roles build networks, reputation, and influence. And when people bring back these skills into your organizations, you often become the people who build stronger, more connected teams. And again, if you're interested in getting involved in this way, talk to people here today. There are so many amazing organizers, contributors, writers, speakers here. Start that conversation and get inspired by what others do. So those are the 6 levels. 6 ways that build Gluework skills. Recognizing it, sharing knowledge, connecting people, practicing it, teaching it, and eventually leading it. So some of these are things that you can do. Some of these are things that you need to start a conversation within your team. Sometimes it starts with just one person deciding to try something. When these behaviors start appearing regularly, something shifts within teams. The team doesn't just deliver work, the team learns faster. They help each other. They support each other more. And when teams do all that, they level up. And there's a reason this matters more now than it did a few years ago. The way we build software is changing. Tools are getting faster. Some parts of the work are becoming easier to automate, or we're letting AI do it. But that doesn't make engineers less important. It changes what becomes valuable. We're spending less time writing code from scratch and more time understanding problems. Working across teams, making decisions together, that work, it's fundamentally human. And these skills aren't built in isolation. They're built in the side quest. They're built in teams, they're built in communities. That's where these skills are learned. So Gluework is essential. Exposure feeds practice, and practice fuels more exposure. And that loop keeps spinning and building stronger leaders, stronger teams, and stronger communities. So our journey doesn't end here. Now it's your turn to pick up the sword. Because the real magic is when these adventures don't just stay in my slides, but how they come alive when you go back to your teams. When you mentor someone, when you write the documentation that everyone was looking for, when you connect 2 teams that weren't talking to each other. That's where the real side quests live. And here's your immediate challenge. Treat this conference as a side quest. Connect with people you haven't met. Share what you know. Listen and learn from others. Take those lessons back to your teams and communities and make them real. Because every connection that you make here, every insight that you gain, it's something that your team and future teams all will benefit from. And as you return to your own adventures, your own teams, reflect for a moment on what's the one small quest that you could start today. Maybe it's sharing something that you've learned. Maybe it's starting a conversation about recognizing this kind of work in your team. It doesn't have to be big. In most RPGs, the smallest side quests are the ones that unlock the biggest storylines later. Every great engineering story, every strong team, every breakthrough product, they all rest on Gluework. The learning, the knowledge sharing, the connections between people, it's what makes teams resilient, what helps communities grow, and what helps you become leaders. The future of tech isn't just built on code, it's built on how we help each other grow. So don't wait for someone else to do it. Don't let it stay invisible. Start a quest, help someone else level up, and see what kind of team you can build together. So the next step is yours. So thank you all for listening. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, that's my QR code, and I will put the slides up in a few days, most likely. And before I ask for questions, are people okay with me taking a selfie of everyone here? Okay. There we go. Yeah. I got a new phone, so I'm still getting used to it. So smile. Okay. Cool. Thank you, everyone. So any any questions?
Is there a treasure chest that you've opened that turned out to be a mimic that you'd known how to spot beforehand?
I like the RPG reference. How would you?
Is there something that you've headed down a path to do, and then realised that actually that if you had a bit of foreknowledge, what was that? Not enough coffee. Is there something that you've done and you realised, had I known this before, this was the wrong way to do it, that I wouldn't have done that?
Oh yeah, all the time. I think there's lots of things, to be honest. I think when I first started managing people, there's certain things that I know that I should have invested more time in. So like, I thought I knew how to give feedback. When I started managing people, I realized I really don't. So I spent time learning how to do that better. But that's, I think, always part of the process. There's often things that we try out, and it's only through bumping into the problems that we realize, oh, that was actually a problem. I think also when we're younger, we have very opinionated ideas of how things are done. And sometimes, as much as other people can tell you that's not the way to do it, it's only when you experience it yourself that you realize, oh yeah, wait a minute, they were actually right. So yeah, there's always been things that I've kind of gone down and realized later on. But I think it's approaching it in the same mindset as when you're approaching something new in tech. If you're learning a new language, you're not going to get it right the first time. You need to try out stuff, create the bugs, have your test fail, have your code fail, before you've realized that, okay, actually this is the route that I should have gone down. And with Gluework skills, it's the same thing. Any other questions? I thought I saw one more hand at least earlier.
So thank you for sharing these different levels. If you, by your own experience, I guess the transition from one level to another is not always equally difficult. So what would be the most difficult one to jump up to if you look at the levels you showed us?
I think the level from connect people to learn by doing. Taking that first step of doing something yourself can feel quite scary. But also, I definitely had this myself, where I constantly felt like, oh, I'll do it when I feel ready enough. Or when someone asks me to do it, when they feel like I'm ready enough. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is just jump in and do it. So conference speaking, for instance, is a good one for me. Like, I, for years, was waiting for someone to ask me to do a conference talk. I thought, if they want to see me at a conference, someone will ask me, rather than actually, submitting to a CFP and seeing if that worked. And I wasn't successful first time around, but it's about taking that leap, and I think that's actually the hardest step to move between, because it's easy to think one day I'll do it, but one day might be tomorrow. Cool. If anyone else has questions, feel free to come find me during the break or any time today. Thank you all for being such a lovely audience.